Hello again. It is time for a replay. We're climbing the ranked ladder, and yeah, this was too fun. I had a great game here, so had to show it off, show you what's up, and yeah, let's just get right on into it. So this was a good game, but the starting hand is abysmal. Yeah, so triple impulse, which is just a going second to interruptions, is your non-engine. It's all non-engine. There's none of these cards are play starters. So yes, we got the triple impulse. We have a droplet, and we have a Fulos. So immediately we are hit with a decision point here. Do we set the droplet and therefore, have to turn off our Fulos in the standby phase and have to use the droplet first essentially? Or do we just hold the droplet and hold the rest as well? So slight decision. You could also choose to set an impulse in case I happen to draw into, let's say a Nibiru or something like that. But then if you've got two cards set, you're relying on your opponent to activate both of these to then turn on the Fulos. So all things considered, tough decision. We can also see the opponent is over 40 cards. It's notable, right? It's definitely notable. So I just choose to set the droplet, kind of split the difference between the two, right? I'd rather have the droplet interruption, set so I have this third layered interruption, because otherwise I'm just relying on two if I keep droplet in hand. So I figure better to have three potential interruptions in play. And, this way the droplet can also kind of get a trap in the grave to hopefully get a little more value out of the impulse, right? Get a destruction effect out of the card as well. So, anyways, here we are. We're going to have to pass to the opponent on this. Now, this is great. They choose to lead with a normal summon of Dormouse. So they're at least on a Maliss, engine, if not the full deck. And so they fire this off, which is incredible. We actually start to get value out of our droplet here. So we're going to go ahead and shotgun the droplet. Now here we will unfortunately see the first misplay on my end. Droplet's nice. We're going to stop this, Dormouse effect to, banish from the deck. Easily the best, starter Maliss that they have. Thank God it's at 1. I was really tired of the Maliss format for as long as it went on. But great. We've got our trap in the grave. Things are looking pretty good here. We negate the Dormouse. Now, as you can see, they link. So I didn't have my toggle turned on here. I absolutely should have dropped Fulos right on the resolution of my droplet, so that way they don't summon from the extra deck without me getting value from that. So that is unfortunate, right? I had to toggle on afterwards, but it was a little bit of an unfortunate misplay. So anyways, they do have more cards in hand, which is crazy, right? So they got their March Hare going here. They're going to banish their Dormouse to get more value, put some bodies on the field. Now, we're not going to choose to impulse just yet, right? We want to make sure we're holding for the right point to stop their special summon. So here, on the resolution of summoning Dormouse, they've got 3 bodies on the field. Now's a great time to drop Fulos. They're going to have to commit. This is the Maliss strategy. They have to commit to extra deck summons. So therefore, we're going to get some value and hopefully start to play the game here. So sure enough, they do go for a play. Nice. And they've got their White Binder. Now, what's great is we finally... Sorry about that. We do hit some engine here. So we get one of the best starters / extenders in the deck, Mitsurugi Prayers. However, they are going to trigger the White Binder effect to banish 3 cards from the graveyards. And they're smart. They get rid of the trap. So my Dominus Impulse gets less value. They're going to now choose to add back the March Hare with its own effect. And then because it's the main phase, they get to set again. So they chose to set an MTP07, which allows them to add, and then if they have a link, they can banish non-targeting from the field, which is pretty nuts. So they do choose to keep this link up. They set some other cards in addition, and there we go. They pass back. They're not going to commit more into that Fulos because they, obviously don't want to give me more draws. However, we are going to take advantage here in the draw phase. We should play around Duel here. We only have 1 card, so we have to try to maximize this Prayers as far as possible just to get, full value out of it, right? So we're going to use this in the draw phase to play around Duel and Lockbird, grab our 1-card starter, the Habakiri, everybody's favorite ritual. All right, and then we will fire off the Habakiri. Bring out the Saji, right? We're doing 1-card combos here, so Saji's now going to grab the ritual, and you can see, right? This Prayers has led to the Habakiri. Habakiri leads to the Saji. Saji grabs the ritual, right? So we're just playing with this 1 card, trying to maximize value here. And we're going to start by summoning from hand to get some more of these little guys out of the deck, trigger their effects, right? We need to just press our advantage as far as we can. So And at this point, right, we know they have the MTPO7, so they can banish something from our field whenever they want to, and so we need to keep that in mind and be cognizant of it. That's why I choose, well, obviously, we've already triggered the Saji, so we're going to try to get as many names in rotation here just to trigger all of their effects, right? So we'll go ahead and stack our chain properly. We'll get the Kusanagi to try to add back the Ritual. Our Amasa is then going to choose to add from deck to hand. We're going to choose to grab a Ritual from deck to hand as our monster of choice, right? This guy grabs a monster for us. The reason we want that is because we know they can banish this Habakiri. So if I don't grab a level 8 here, which, I mean, you're always going to grab a level 8 with Muramasa 9 times out of 10, unless you sometimes want to grab a little dude. But we want to grab specifically a Ritual because even if they choose to banish the Habakiri when we use our Ritual summon here, because we're going to now choose to use the second effect of Ritual. Ritual's broken, right? You get to use each of these once per turn. So we've summoned from hand using the Ritual effect, right? We've done the hand effect, so now we're going to choose to do the deck effect, which will hopefully force out this MTPO7. So we choose to summon from deck, and of course they respond with MTPO7. So they will banish one card on the field, which is going to be this Habakiri, and they're going to get their little guy in rotation. So now we are going to then, this is exactly what we tried to set it up for, right? We get our Murakumo from deck by using, finisher rank 3, by using the Futsu. And this is because we want to trigger or tribute a ritual, specifically a Mitsurugi ritual, to get some more value out of these tributes, right? So now we can stack our chain appropriately, and we're just going to choose to use the Futsu effect. I would like them to commit a little bit more before I use this Murakumo, right? We know that they have their March Hare in hand, so at any point they can use that March Hare and banish, the White Rabbit that they just added. And for those not familiar, good for you if you're not familiar with the Maliss strategy, this guy can go ahead and set up a Maliss trap. Now, we do know, right, their MTPO7 is kind of the nasty interruption, banish from field. However, they do have other effects that can summon Maliss monsters, which is not as threatening, so that's totally fine. We're definitely going to hold our impulse for most likely this White Rabbit, this White Binder coming back. So we're going to get our Futsu effect to go ahead and get our mirror in rotation because we just need to, keep pressing our advantage with these Mitsurugi cards. So we will tribute the Murakumo to summon the Futsu from deck. Here we go. Now we're going to use the Murakumo's graveyard effect to add a Mitsurugi card and then summon itself. The reason we choose to add Aramasa, right, we have some options. We could add any Mitsurugi we want, but we're trying to play into our opponent's board here, and if we grab, because right, we've already used the mirror, we've already used the ritual, we've already used prayers. That's unfortunate. We've already gone through prayers, but you do what you got to do. There's not really any Mitsurugi spells that we can use. We could have chose to grab the trap, but that's just an interruption. It's not going to actually do anything on this turn, and I'm really trying to press my advantage on this turn. So we will go ahead and bring back the Murakumo. Now, this is the last time we're going to special summon it, so we might as well trigger its effect to destroy all monsters. And lo and behold, we have an infinite impermanence hitting the board here. So this thing is getting negated. There's nothing I can really do about it. So the only thing I think that makes sense is let's try to get another card out of their hand and use Murakumo's last effect to force them to discard or negate this infinite impermanence. Now, they do want the imperm to go through, so it's a little bit unfortunate. They had just a random card in hand that they were more than willing to discard. So we'll go ahead and take the hit, right? Murakumo is going to get negated. So it goes. Now, here we go. This was to be expected, right? They are now going to choose to use their March Hare and banish a Maliss from hand or graveyard. So there's no Maliss. Oh, I guess they could use the Dormouse, but they're going to likely use the White Rabbit here. Yeah, because they want to then... Yeah, this is great. So they've banished the White Rabbit. They're going to attempt to use its banish effect here to try to summon itself back. So what's nice is they've special summoned the March Hare, which means this Futsu is immediately going to start generating value, and specifically, it's going to start summoning reptiles from the graveyard. Notice this is not a once per turn. Most folks who would play Mitsurugis know that, but yes, it's a very, very cool card. So they are now going to use their trigger effect, because this is our trigger. It's our turn, so we get to do the trigger effect first. Then the opponent goes next. They're going to use their trigger effect. I have no response to that, so they're going to now use what's called an ignition effect, where they can just choose to activate that effect. And so they are now going to use their infinite impermanence to stop our Futsu, right? They don't want us to generate bodies on the field. Which is fine. They are now on very few resources here. They've used both of their impermanences on our 2 rituals. They will get a body, which is unfortunate, you know, building a field presence, but that's fine. You know, they're going to set this trap. Great. What is this, the GWC? GWC is only another special summon, right? This isn't going to interrupt our field besides just giving them more Maliss monsters and then potentially gaining a little bit of life points. So nothing crazy. The fact that they can use it by banishing a Maliss is what's most important. They're going to try to banish this white hair and, you know, use its banish effect to generate some value here. White hair, or not white hair, white binder. White binder is just a crazy card. So glad this guy's banned in the TCG. All right. So now, lo and behold, they use the GWC and they tribute the white binder. So they bring back this body and then think for some reason they're safe and can use this white binder. So this is where we're going to have to choose to impulse and stop that effect. Very important. We cannot let this white binder hit the field. It needs to stay in the banished pile. Now we're going to go ahead and use our normal summon Aramasa, so now build our own field presence, and now we have 3 monsters to deal with their 3 monsters. Incredible. Go to battle, clean up the board here a little bit. Now, unfortunately, we're going to hit our second misplay. So this is me still kind of getting used to the impulse card. I haven't played with it very much. So we make a Dynamondo. This guy's useless, unfortunately. So let's go ahead, just for those who didn't catch it, right? We used Dominus Impulse from hand, meaning that if we do use this from the hand, we can't use light, earth, or wind monsters. And unfortunately, Dynamondo is an earth right up here. So this guy's useless. He literally doesn't do anything, which is unfortunate. I brought him out mostly to bring out a Futsu on the opponent's turn, but what does that really accomplish either, too, right? That's just me bringing back a card that I used to summon this Dynamondo anyways. I probably should have just kept the Futsu, or if we were going to link summon, let's make an IP Masquerena. But then what? We make the IP with the Murakumo and the Aramasa. I think that would have been a little bit better, right? Then we have the Futsu. However, the reason I chose to keep this Murakumo on the field is they only have 1 card in hand. I want to use this as an interruption because if they don't have cards to discard to, you know, prevent the Murakumo negation, it just negates anything. So I figured with them having so few resources, let's keep the Murakumo on the board and have this Dynamondo to bring out the Futsu or whatever, but Dynamondo's useless. So a little bit unfortunate, was a misplay. Probably should have just kept all the bodies on the field because the little guys all have this nice effect too, right? Where they can protect from battle or card effect. So ultimately, I think it would have been best to, in this game situation with them having so few cards, is just leave all the bodies on the field. Leave the Futsu, leave the Aramasa, just keep the field presence. The Futsu's going to do its thing if they special summon. Aramasa can protect, and then, you know, Murakumo can negate. It's a really layered board, just as pure Mitsurugi's. So, a little bit unfortunate. They've got nothing. 2 cards in hand. They're not going to commit into it. Now, this is tricky because they don't have many life points left. Yeah, we've already used this Mitsurugi Habakiri, so this isn't going to do anything. So we're just going to go ahead and press our advantage here a little bit. Now, it is unfortunate, right, that there are 800 life points. If I had just left my board as is, I think they probably would have been dead. Or, yeah, we would have had game through this because the Futsu is 2k and then Aramasa is 12. So that would have been game. Unfortunate. Now we're going to have to give them another draw, which just sucks. Now here we go. They are going to use their pre-preparation of rights. This is a lot of value. We're going to have to try to stop this with the Murakumo, get rid of another card in their hand, because this is going to give them a +2. They'll likely discard for it anyways. They get rid of an Azamina, which is wild. The fact that they're on Maliss, Azamina, and as you look to see, right, Mitsurugi's as well. Now this is a huge misplay on their part. They grab a Mitsurugi Murakumo and the mirror. I don't know what's going on with that, because now they can't choose to use it. And now we realize why they grabbed the Murakumo, because they want to bring it out with the ritual and get crazy value. This is greedy on their part, because now they've cut themselves off from being able to extend with another play. If they had chosen to keep this Habakiri, they could have used that, get more Mitsurugis out of the deck, and then choose to use this ritual. And you can eventually still get to the Murakumo. But they're being super greedy, and thankfully we have the punish for this. Impulse will stop this and win us the game. Because now we know exactly what they have in their hand. They have a Murakumo and a mirror. and neither of those cards do anything on their own. So here we go. We can just flex just a little bit. Just a little bit. Some misplays on both sides, right? We'll use our Lamia. We like Lamia. It's pretty cool. We are playing the Wosu in this deck, too. That's fun. And then we'll just turn these two into a card that actually does something. WP Fancy Ball. But we're just flexing on our opponent at this point. Attack them with the monster that they can't summon. Diabolical. Wild game. Wacky deck on the opponent's part, too. So, anyways, I really hope you enjoyed.